Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I'm here with Ian Browne. Ian has a super interesting story about it's basically doctor shopping, right?
Really, it's actually we stole a doctor's identity.
So where were you born? Tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Okay, what are you doing in Florida? What are you doing in Florida? How'd you get to Florida?
How to get to Florida? Oh, well, Lowell, Massachusetts ended up turning into a like it was a massive, during the cocaine epidemic.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's even an HBO special on it called Lowell High on Crack Street.
Okay.
Like, it's really bad. And actually, the movie The Fighter, have you guys ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah, I saw The Fighter.
That was actually in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So, yeah, crack was a big thing. So my family was like, we got to go.
Right.
And then also my mother's brother was down, also my grandparents. So we moved down here in the early 90s. I want to say 92, 91.
How old were you?
I was 7.
Okay. So crack wasn't a problem for you at
Oh, no. Yeah. We left because of...
Right. Okay.
Because of all of that.
So you came to Florida. Are you in Tampa or St. Pete or what?
We moved to St. Pete, Jungle Prada.
Okay.
Yeah, we rented a small house. It was temporary. My father's a machinist, mother homemaker.
All right.
And my brother and I, and went to Azalea Elementary. You know what I mean? It was a real culture shock when I first moved down here, because in Massachusetts everything is organized. You know what I mean? As far as race goes.
Oh, okay.
As crazy as that sounds, like you have your Jewish neighborhood, your Portuguese neighborhood, your Italian neighborhood, your Irish neighborhood.
And
we're
like just mixed. It's rich and poor.
Yeah, well, in a sense. And then when I came down here, all of a sudden it's like I'd see a black person or an African American or whatever,
right? And
they would be like, walking down the street, and they would actually cross the street, and to me that was so confusing. It was really like.
They're in the wrong neighborhood.
Well, yeah, it was really odd how they act so much different down here than in the South. You know what I mean?
Right,
the South was just...
It was a culture shock.
Yeah, really big culture shock. Really big culture shock.
All right. So where'd you graduate high school? Where'd you go to high school?
Oh, I graduated high school in Pinellas County Jail.
And how'd that happen? I feel like we skipped something.
I in school I scored high in the IQ test.
Right.
I scored 132. I just really didn't like school. I didn't like people telling me what to do. I got in a lot of fights. Got suspended on purpose. You know what I mean? I assaulted a teacher. All sorts of things, and I just.
You ended up in what, juvenile?
No. Believe it or not, no. Actually, they cut us a deal when I was in my teens. They said if you just drop out now that you're 16, then we won't give you an assault charge.
For assaulting a teacher?
Yes, I assaulted a teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
What did the teacher do?
Well, on my way out of the class, I was leaving. I was like, go fuck yourself. And when I flicked them off, he said, "Is that your IQ or your age?" I snapped.
Okay. So listen, when I leave, it's been a while since I've been in school, but when I would leave the class to go to my next class, I seldomly said, "Go fuck yourself" to my teacher. Typically something has to happen for that. So I'm saying, what happened that you told your teacher to go fuck yourself? Was that just a normal?
He was a veteran, and I didn't stand up for the pledge of allegiance.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they still do that now. I'm not even sure exactly. Right. But so I didn't stand up for the pledge. Guy was a Vietnam veteran.
Right.
So he was very upset.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not going to stand up for that fucking rag. Fuck you.
Okay.
So I was really a bad kid in school. Like, I really did the opposite of what you were supposed to do.
Right.
On purpose.
Okay. So then you mouthed off to him. You flipped him a bird. What happened? He came at you or just mouthed off back?
Yeah, he just said, "Is that your IQ or your age?" when I flicked him off. So I got angry and I grabbed a garbage can, knocked over the overhead projector, and then threw the garbage can at him.
Okay.
And then I walked out
And
and then went home.
and what? The police show up or what?
Well, yeah, it was, God, if I can remember, it's deputy mayor. And what they did is they cut me a deal because I had more referrals than anybody else in the entire high school. I had, I think, 53 by December.
Referrals saying don't send them.
Referrals, like, would get in trouble at school. Teacher writes you a referral.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I had like 53 by December. I had a bunch of twilight detentions I never showed up to. It was like in the 20s. I never showed up to a single one, but I did it on purpose because I'd get suspended because I just didn't want to be there.
Right.
I was a very angry kid, I guess.
Okay. So all right. So then, so you were in, how'd you dropped out of school. How'd you end up in jail?
Well, I ended up in jail when, actually, the first time I ended up in jail was for possession of alcohol. And they sent me to juvenile arbitration rehabilitation facility.
Okay.
It's like something to do with PAR. That's big in the state of Florida, PAR. And they kept me there for 3 days. Like it's like some stupid fake rehab thing. It's
right.
like, I don't even think it's even still even there. But they kept me there for 3 days, and I got out, and that was pretty much it. And then I had to do community service and stuff for the possession of alcohol and whatnot.
Okay. So that you went to jail then.
Yeah.
You.
Actually, my first arrest, I'm sorry, I got to backtrack a little bit. My first arrest, I was 12 years old, and my first arrest was retail theft for stealing cigarettes.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the video, and if you're interested in buying a painting from me, my contact information is in the description box. Back to the video. All right, so then what happened? So so you're arrested then. Obviously you're 12. You don't stay in jail very long.
No, it was they called it PJAC. It was in Pinellas County. So I stayed there until your parents pick you up, pretty much.
Right.
Is how it goes. So I stayed there, and then my parents picked me up, went home. Then I had to do like community service and pay some. Well, my mother had to pay the fine. So really, my mother is the one who ended up, getting hurt really by it, not me.
All right. So you graduated high school. This started with So how many times were you arrested in general before you were 18?
I was arrested for retail theft at 12, 13-ish. Then I was arrested for trespassing around 14. And then I was arrested again for another possession of alcohol. I was an alcoholic.
Right.
From like the age 12. I'd drink before school and everything. And after that, I didn't really get arrested again. And then I learned how to pretty much evade the cops, and I smartened up a little bit. And then my next arrest wasn't until 2007.
Yeah, but you said you graduated high school when you were locked up.
Yeah, that was in 2007.
Oh, okay. What was that arrest for?
That was for, here we go.
Is that for the prescription fraud?
Yes.
Okay, so how'd that start?
Well, how that started was I was always selling pills, oxycodone, hydromorphone, morphine, whatever. And I had a lot of people that were...
How'd you get into doing that? Like, that's not something someone...
Oh, well,
you don't apply for a job doing that,
When I was young, I started eating pills around between 16, 18. I ate some that really got bad at age 18. And then I became like physically addicted by then.
Right, yeah.
And that's when things, really, really took a turn for the worse. So I was always selling drugs to to pay for my habit.
Right.
So I was selling marijuana at the time. So that's how I bought my first car. That's how so I sold a bunch of weed, did that. And then eventually I graduated into just taking pills every day. Like it started getting bad. That was because back then it was hard to get pills. Like, you know what I mean? Opioids. There was no Roxy's or any of that stuff, or D's or whatever they call them now. You know what I mean? There was none of that.
Right.
It was extremely hard. Like I would have to find young kids and I'd trade them weed to go through their parents' pills.
Right.
To give them to me. Like it was really difficult because it wasn't a huge thing like it is now.
Right.
Like this is like before it really got big. And
hey, sorry for interrupting the video, but want to let you guys know that if you join my Patreon at the top tier, every single month you get a different painting, and the contact information for my Patreon page is in the description. Back to the video.
And what I did was, you know, I got worse and worse, more addicted. I started trading weed to young kids so they could steal pills from their parents. Then I started meeting people that were on or prescribed medication like Oxycontin, oxycodone, hydromorphone, things like that.
Right.
And now they saw on the news that these pills are worth all this money. So there's grandparents having their grandkids selling on the street and stuff, or to get rid of them, because they saw that it was such a big money maker.
Right.
They literally like used their own children to sell. So
yeah, I wrote a book. I've written a couple stories, but I actually wrote a book called Generation Oxy, and yeah. So they were going for like what, like $1 a milligram or something like that. They were.
Oh well, no. at that time, God, I was getting Oxycontin 80s for, I think I never paid more than $10.
Right.
So at that time, you know, I was loading up on them from anywhere I can get.
The kids,
and
the guys that I wrote the book about, they were sending them to Tennessee and Alaska, and they were paying like $1. They were paying like $1 a milligram. Like they could get them here for next to nothing.
Yep.
And ship them up north because there were so many pill mills.
Oh yeah, they would literally roll up in a U-Haul, like from Kentucky or something. They'd roll up to a pain management clinic in a U-Haul and have a bunch of people like literally inside the U-Haul, like they all rode inside of it. And they'd like pull out a grill, a barbecue, because they'd have to wait for hours and hours, sometimes almost an entire day. And
to
then
see the doctor.
Yeah, and the driver would get a cut from each person. That was, you know, the Oxycontin Railroad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that phrase.
Yeah.
But so they would sit out there. It was insane. Like you would literally roll up to a pain management clinic and see all of these people out in the parking lot, like camping.
Yeah.
Like literally camping. Then they hired security. They had surveillance. It was just, you know what I mean? It was nuts. It was a free for all.
So you were getting you were buying the pills initially, and then you started going to what? Did you start going to the pain clinics, or?
Well, what it was I had a bunch of people that had all of these pills, and they saw on the news how much they went for, and they couldn't get rid of them. They couldn't sell them.
Right.
They
Okay.
didn't, you know what I mean? Because these are just normal, average people. They're
You're
not.
50-year-old guy who has a slight back problem, who happens to has a full script, doesn't need them all, but he knows, hey, I can get this many every month. I don't need all those, but if they're worth money, I can make an extra $500 a month.
Oh God, no,
Or
a lot
1,000,
more.
whatever.
Yeah, thousands. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, they were getting 300 pills, and you know they'd give it to me for $7 a piece. I'd sell them for 15.
Right.
You know, so I had multiple people that would give them to me because they trusted me. I had a guy even from he worked for FedEx, and he was intercepting packages. I'd meet him every Friday. He'd give me a crap ton of Oxycontin 80s, and he'd give them to me for only $10 a piece. And at the time, I could sell them for $45 on the street.
Okay.
So it was, I was making money hand over fist. Like all these people these old people and everything, they knew how expensive this stuff was, but they had no way of getting rid of them.
Right.
And they also didn't want to get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So how long did this go on?
All the way through my 20s. And then that's when the whole prescription fraud thing kicked in.
How'd that happen?
Well, a friend of mine I've known since I was a little kid. I mean, we all grew up in the same neighborhood. These are all people that, I mean, they lived in $1,000,000, $500,000 homes, had the future, like everything was, it's so crazy. I just don't understand it because I was broke
Right.
when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And these people, they just,
Yeah, they had you grew up poor and they were upper middle class or
Yep.
had plenty of money and everything in the world to look forward to and could go to college and their parents are there and supportive and the whole thing and they end up getting hooked on
exactly.
drugs. Yeah, I know that's half my neighborhood.
Yeah. So I took advantage of that.
Of course, that's what you do.
Yeah. So I took advantage of that, made tons of money, and spent it on coke. I started IV using when I was 17.
Jesus.
I contracted hepatitis C at the age of 17. I'm cured ever since August. I've been cured of hepatitis C,
Okay.
but I lived with that for quite some time. I have liver fibrosis because of it, actually. But so as that was going on, I was getting all those pills fronted to me. And then, I'd give them their money, after I sold them, blah, blah, blah. Then a friend of mine, he was doing this thing where he was like, hey, I think I can make prescription pads from scratch. I'm like, well, all right, well, let's do it. Let's get this ball rolling here, bud.
Right.
Because when I was a kid, my brother and I, we made fake IDs. I mean, DVDs. I mean, we made fake McDonald's coupon money.
Right.
I mean, we did it all. Like any way we could get ahead, you know what I mean? We jumped right on it.
Yeah.
That was us. We were always trying to beat the system. Like when we bootlegged movies, we even got a letter from Warner Brothers, a cease and desist letter, because they were like, we're going to call the FBI if you don't stop serving this Austin Powers movie. That's how long ago it was.
Right.
Austin Powers, right? And so my friend that was doing the prescription thing or into it, I talked him into doing it and then revamping it and making it more efficient. So what we did is we had strippers, drug addicts, people like that.
Yeah. People that are willing to go in and hand them a fake fucking script and hang out and
Well,
wait.
no. This is to get their identification.
Oh, okay.
So we'd get their identifications because I'm not going to fill a prescription with my ID.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You want to write them a script and have them go in. No?
No.
Not using them as crash test dummies?
That's not what we did.
Okay.
Well, the way we did it, it was even better. I would go and fill the script. And they were all women. All 9 identities were women.
Okay.
So what I would do is I'd go in and say, hey, I'm filling a prescription for my girlfriend. It's for this, whatever. I'm paying cash. She doesn't have insurance. And I memorized all 9 identities, all of them, address, date of birth, because they're going to ask you date of birth and everything like that when you go to the pharmacy.
Right.
And so that allowed us to do 9 prescriptions at each pharmacy, chain pharmacies or any other pharmacies. So it was pretty much unlimited.
So that was before the what is it? The database. Yeah.
Yes, before the database. Right before the database. So what we did is we started doing that again. And what we did was we found the font size. We stole a doctor's identity called up. I probably shouldn't say her name, right?
Why? It was in the newspaper. It was in the newspaper article, right?
Yeah,
I mean-
her name was Dr. Alexis Henderson.
Yeah, I'm
So-
sure she's fine.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say that. Is she ended up becoming a addiction specialist shortly after, and prescribing people buprenorphine and stuff to get them off of drugs.
Nice.
So maybe
Yeah, maybe you hasten that.
maybe I changed her ways. So either way,
Well, she wasn't writing the scripts.
no.
You guys just had a script from her, and you just
we made it from scratch.
right. But did you counterfeit
we
her
took her
pad?
Yes, we took her DEA number, her license. We got to have a DEA number
Yeah.
to prescribe narcotics. So we had a DEA number and a license number. Then we got a doctor's pen, like a $200 pen or whatever, and then we figured out how to write, per tablet, by mouth, per day, blah blah
Right.
blah, because there's like a certain language that they use.
Yeah. Last thing you want is the pharmacist to go, "Gee, I don't understand what this means," and make a phone call.
And that's where I stepped in. We always did it after 5 p.m. or right at 5 p.m. Because I'm like, I just got off of work.
Right.
I'm an electrician. I just got off of work. I'm filming this for my girlfriend.
Right.
And I'm a young guy. I have a,
Young face.
young face. I don't look threatening.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? Or anything like that. I didn't have track marks or anything like that. So I'd go in and I'd fill each prescription with each identity. So one identity I'd use at CVS, one identity I'd use at Walgreens, and we'd keep track of which ones we used them at.
Right.
Because I could do 9 at CVS, 9 at Walgreens, 9 at Target, 9 at Walmart, 9 at, the list goes on.
Right.
So we did that for quite some time. And I'd go fill a prescription of 300 oxycodone 30 milligram tablets. There's a guy waiting in the parking lot to pay $10 a piece for. So it'd be $3,000, boom. Then I could go and do another one that same day, 3,000, boom. So, it was just,
It's good money.
yeah, come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I blew it on cocaine and strippers and things like that.
I hear you. I hear you.
I was like a rock star without a guitar. You know what I mean? It was I was just having fun, kicking ass, But
So so what happened?
well, this is what happened.
Nothing happened. It all went right. I'm still doing it this day. Wouldn't that mean I'm still doing it now? I just
right.
dropped
I'm
off
still
a
doing it.
fucking
Actually, I just picked up.
Talking about.
I just picked up a script just now.
Yeah.
No. So, you know how people are when they get in trouble, they get scared.
Right. So what happened? You dropped one of your,
Out of the 4 of us,
what would you call these? So you were working with 4 people. Would you call them dealers or?
no, the 2 women were just, they shouldn't have even been involved, period. And one of them is passed away.
Are you about to say that the entire operation was taken down because you involved a woman?
No.
Okay, good. Because that's not true. Because I know
That, no.
that never
God,
happens.
no. God, no.
Okay.
God, no. God, no. She was actually, one of the women was actually really good at it. And,
Right.
and she was the one who used to fill them until I stepped in.
You have to understand how many stories I've heard. It always ends up with. So there was this chick, and it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't that. So it started getting hot. Like, you know what I mean? Police, like,
People are getting busted. People you're selling
What
to this
hap-
guy. You sell to this guy, and that guy got busted, and this guy's getting busted. You start getting
Yeah.
concerned.
So what happened was my partner, he couldn't wait until I got off work. It was like, he couldn't wait. He just couldn't wait. I got off work at 3:30. We could fill the script at 5, bud. No big deal.
Right.
But no, he was too dope sick, or he wasn't professional at all.
Right.
So what he did is he sent in this innocent girl. She's, of course, in there nervous as heck. You know what I mean? Looking totally obvious. And she got busted.
Filling a narcotic,
Yes.
which they're already suspicious of when they're filling narcotics.
Exactly. And you're in there, she's shaking. She doesn't know what she's doing. You know,
Right.
it was horrible. So because usually what our rule is you go in, you say, I'm going to wait. Like when you go and they're like, oh, we'll fill it when you don't want to come back. I'm like, no, I'll sit and wait. And then you watch them.
Yeah, if they
See
go
if
for
they
the
pick
phone.
up the phone, things like that. Exactly. Yeah, very, very simple. And he didn't wait for me to get off work that day, my partner. And he made a dumb move, signed a girl into a CVS of all places too. You know what I mean? They're pretty tight.
Okay.
So she got arrested. So I imagine she went in there and sung a 4-disc album. You know what I mean? Like a fucking acapella.
Right.
And of course she did, but she had no idea that I existed. Thank God. This comes later in the story. But what my partner did without telling me is he changed the phone number because he went early before 5 o'clock. Because if you go and fill a prescription at 5 p.m., they can't call the doctor to verify. It's pharmacist discretion. All of this all worked on pharmacist discretion. So he sent her in. She got all paranoid, blah, 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 totally fucked it up. And she gets arrested. So then my buddy tells me, he's like, all right, everything's cool. She got busted, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I'm like, what's going on here? Is she singing like, she has no idea about me.
Right.
So I wasn't too worried. But being a desperate drug addict, I was like, all right, well, let's, go do another one or two or whatever. So we did a few. And then all of a sudden we did one at a Target, Boot Ranch Target in East Lake in Palm Harbor. And it was weird because my partner said something about when he switched the numbers on it, it went to his cell phone, like he was going to verify a script.
Right.
Like he's an idiot.
Right.
Of course he can't do that. He has no computer in front of him. He can't, So he does that. He gives it a shot. And he slips up and tells me that I talked to a detective, but we're already in the middle of something. I'm filling a prescription at this Target, and he tells me this. And I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, what? And then our rule always, whenever we went anywhere, is you take one identification, one prescription filled out, and that's it.
Right.
Otherwise, you got a slew of charges
Right.
you're carrying. I mean, it could be 50 felonies you're carrying. So apparently, I guess he was setting me up. And I went into the Target and filled the script. They switched it out with Claritin. All of the detectives are already there.
Jesus.
The crazy part is I went and dropped off the script and I watched all the entrances. I only waited exactly 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes. So I'm like, okay, good. No cops coming. Looks like it's going to work. So I go and fill the script. And on the way out, it turns out that there was a bunch of the Delta Narcotics Force from Pinellas County were in there dressed as shoppers, with shopping carts, the whole nine. And I walk out, and then I open, for some reason, something just, I don't know, something just didn't feel right. So I opened up the bottle. I looked inside, and I saw little blue pills. Roxy's, oxycodone, 30 milligrams.
Right.
They're blue,
Yeah.
blue small pills.
They call them blueberries, right?
Yep. Or, yeah, that depends.
Blues,
Yeah, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, there's like a million names. So I closed the bottle. And I'm like, okay, looks okay. I was going to like investigate him in the middle of the store,
Right.
So I start walking out, and then all of a sudden, there's a helicopter in the air. There's a bunch of unmarked cars everywhere. I get pistol whipped, thrown in the bed of my truck. And they're like, oh, look who else we got. We got this guy too. And he's talking about my buddy. And like, it seemed so like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rehearsed?
Yeah. Like, really, it really did. And I know it was.
Yeah.
And then not just that, he broke our rule. In my glove box, he put in a bunch of other filled prescriptions and then a bunch of other identifications. So he pretty much set me up
Yeah.
so I could take the fall.
Right. So
And-
you're the ringleader.
Yeah, that's what he made it seem like. He told them like, oh, he's the ringleader of the whole nine. So I went into the jail. I get to jail, and my bond starts out at $120,000. I got a trafficking charge, obtaining controlled substance by fraud, and I think that was it. But it was like $120,000 bond.
Right.
Now, as the minutes went on, more and more charges kept going, more and more and more. And then I knew I wasn't getting out, so I didn't bother bonding out. You know what I mean? My family had no money. You know what I mean? I just had my mother, and my father's dead, you know. And so while I'm in there, I kept getting called to a what do they call it when you're in there? Oh my God.
Visitation?
No. It's when you go to court, advisory court. So I kept getting called back in. More charges, more charges, more charges. I went in with 3. I ended up with 17.
Okay.
17 felonies. 6 were first degree level 8 felonies, which is the same as a rape.
Okay.
So I'm looking at like life. Like I'm thinking, I'm doing life.
You're doing life if you go to trial and lose and they stack the charges, you're doing
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you plead guilty, you get a deal, maybe.
yeah. Well, this is how it worked. When they came to me and they were like, "Here's 5 more charges," because I had 12, and I thought that was it. And they came to me and they gave me 5 grand theft charges on the IDs that they had that the son of a bitch put in my glove box.
Right.
And then it was funny though, because the detective did such great detective work. I'm like, well, this girl's only 20 years old, and you say her purse was stolen from the Zone, which is a club in Tarpon. I'm like, she's not even old enough to be even inside of that club.
Right.
So how could that even be possible? So they threw away the 5 grand theft charges. Thank God. So then now I'm just with 12, so, which is the 12 charges were. Sorry, it takes a second. It's so many. It was conspiracy, 2 counts of conspiracy, 2 counts of trafficking, 4 counts of obtaining a controlled substance by fraud, and then 2 counts of unauthorized possession of a driver's license or ID. So, I admitted to the 3 pharmacies that I filled a prescription on. They had me, man.
Right.
I mean, it was another CVS, and then another one was at like a Walgreens, and you know what I mean. The cameras on me, the whole 9. I mean, you see
Right.
my tattoos, the whole 9. I'm like, okay, yeah. And they had 13 eyewitnesses.
Right.
So, so I took those charges. I took those, but luckily a lot of them got dropped off. And when I was formally charged, finally, it was 2 counts of attempted trafficking, 4 counts of obtaining controlled substance by fraud, and then 2 counts of unauthorized possession of a driver's license.
Right.
But like it was weird. It was they let me slide because it was my first arrest. You know, I had a good job. I'm an electrician.
It was your first arrest. You'd been arrested half a dozen times as a juvenile.
As a juvenile, but they don't count that.
Okay.
But when it comes to adult stuff, they don't care about the
Yeah.
misdemeanor crap.
Right.
So they let me slide, kind of. I had to get an interview with a guy named Chapman. And what he did was ask me my entire life story. What he was trying to do was they were trying to figure out if I was a drug addict or a drug dealer.
Right.
So of course I,
You lean into the drug addict. Yeah.
Yeah, I BS'd as much as I possibly could, of course. I didn't tell them anything about. They asked me, they're like, so did you give any pills to anybody? I'm like, no, because it's the same as selling them.
Right.
So they kept trying to trap me and all that. I stuck to my guns. Things went all right. And I ended up pleading out to, because at first that's all they were sticking on was the 15 years. They're like, we're running everything concurrent. You're doing 15 years.
Right.
So I got an interview with that Chapman guy, like I was saying, and he, interviewed me. He decided that, okay, you're just a drug addict. You're a nice white boy from the suburbs.
Right.
Which unfortunately is sad. That has anything to do with my sentence.
Right.
But that's America. And I ended up getting 5 years, 1 year in, 4 years out.
Right.
And 6 months house arrest.
Okay.
And then the 10 o'clock curfew.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole night. I do 6 months in this.
Ankle monitor.
No ankle. It was community control, they call it.
What is it? You have to call when you leave and come home,
Oh,
or
man,
they just randomly call?
you have to write down everything you're going to do, the whole nine. I mean, you can't even go to if you go shopping, I'm like, oh, well, what if I go to the mall? They're like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
They're like, you have to go to Walmart.
Yeah, it's basically like it's basically like the halfway house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same idea. Yeah, and that 6
The
months.
halfway house is your apartment.
Yeah, yeah. And that 6 months I did in this rehab facility was pretty much same thing, halfway house.
All right. So when they grabbed you though, there was like a big article about that it was a whole ring and everything. And what did the papers stay on it or no? Or was just the one art was.
No. Luckily, it was just the one article, and everybody saw it.
Right.
Everybody saw it. My girlfriend at the time, I told her I wasn't using.
Right.
And her manager came to her and said, "Hey, isn't this your boyfriend that just showed up
Right.
last week?"
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
So that
How'd that work out?
That worked out really bad.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that was really bad. So, yeah, and the thing is too, one of the girls that was involved prior to when we took over, she ended up passing away. She overdosed
On oxys?
a methadone, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's actually a Pappas. I don't know if you ever heard the Pappas family in
Yeah, I know
Tarpon
that.
Springs.
Yeah, I know.
She's actually a Pappas.
I know Kevin Pappas. He had written a book about, he was a drug dealer.
Yeah,
And he's in Atlanta now.
I knew Joe Pappas.
Joe Pappas, I think, is what, the older one? Or
Yeah,
he
he had-
owned the restaurant?
They all
they
have
own like a-
ponytails. You can't tell because
They're all Greek.
Yeah, they're all Greeks.
Right.
They got to have the ponytail, so it's hard to tell which one's which. But I remember I sold him a bunch of weed, a couple of times, and coke. But
So she passed away. Okay, so
oh, and the other, I'm sorry, the other guy, Tret.
right,
Ever since we got arrested, he all of a sudden got out early.
right.
He just disappeared. And I have still to this day have not seen him. Nobody
Disappeared
else.
like he changed his life and started living a clean life, or disappeared like he's in a shallow grave somewhere. Disappeared.
I don't know, but he's gone. I have not seen him. He doesn't have a Facebook. I mean, by now I would have had to have run into him. His mother lives in the same area that I frequent. Like I'm amazed that I have not seen this guy. So he is doing his best to make sure that he never
doesn't.
sees me or anybody involved, I guess, period.
Well, okay, that sounds good. So anything you got out? You did all the paper? Obviously, this was 2000 and what? 2007.
Yeah. So I was,
yeah.
2008, I got released, and then I did all the paper. I violated twice for
What?
a UA for oxycodone.
Oh, that's crazy. I'm so shocked.
Yeah, right.
It's,
And so luckily I got a really good attorney, because it's all about who you know. It really is. It's sad. It really
the
is.
state system.
It is. It is. It's like it depends on your skin color and who you know, and that's just the way it is, and it's fucking disgusting. But
it's working for you, so.
But it worked out great for me. Yes. White privilege.
So all right. So everything's. What are you doing now?
Right now I'm an electrician by trade, but I got a DUI. So right now I'm working back at a body shop. I used to paint cars.
Right.
I have a lot of trades under my belt. It's one thing my father taught me before he died was learn as many trades as you can, so you always got something to fall back on.
Hey, I appreciate you watching. If you like the video, do me a favor and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Leave a comment in the comment section. Share the video with as many of your friends and family as possible. And I appreciate it. See you.